in
All
progress.
right. So thank you everybody for jumping in today. And again, being flexible with this weather. Today we have Jen Davis and Jenny Meyer joining us to talk all about buyers. I've had the privilege of working with both of these wonderful individuals in a professional setting, as well as, personally, I've gotten to know them over the years, and they are two of my absolute favorites out there. Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about how long you've been with KW, what kind of production you were doing, and your current role now?
Sure. So I joined KW 10 years ago last fall. I worked at another brokerage before. So I did not start at KW. I was a buyer's agent for another agent for about 5 years. Met Dan Holt through a mutual friend, and Dan recruited me to Keller Williams. He was looking for a buyer's agent. And I said no for 6 months. So Dan at that point was doing almost no production. So it was easier to say no then than it would be now. Yet he sent me to a class. He sent me to Win with Buyers in Kansas City, and I learned something. And what I learned was there are easier ways to do things. I could learn from other people's mistakes. And so I joined KW as Dan's buyer's agent. I was his lead buyer agent for 6 years. And built out what is now known as the team within a team model. So built out a showing agent model. So if you look at the buy side, we ran it like MREA. We added administrative support, we added some lead generation support, and then eventually showing support. And so I went from closing 16 transactions at my previous company to 49 my first year at KW. And by 2018, we were at 182, then 225 for multiple years in a row. In 2019, I bought into Holt Homes Group. So Dan had the business valued. He wanted to become the operating principal of our wonderful market center. And so valued the business. And I bought in for half of Holt Homes Group. Started leading the team later that year. Shanna was an inside sales agent on our team, and she became the director of sales for us. And during kind of that period of time, we became the first team in the market center to cross over 500 closed units. A lot of that due to Shanna's work with the agents, great operations support from Monica, and great lead gen support from Ashton, both of which are still on our team. And about that time, I became a MAPS coach, and I was looking at other opportunities. And so I was doing lead generation calls one day, and I was lead generating for talent. And I would call clients and ask, did they know anybody that was looking to maybe get into real estate? And I ended up at 4x4 and ran into me, Jenny. And I was like, that's who I'm looking for. I had sold her parents a house. Previous years, I went to what was then CrossFit Springfield, now Proximal Strength. And so I knew Jenny, knew her reputation. And so brought her in 2020. Took 6 months to bring you in. The talented ones take a while, guys.
It was also, there was a shutdown. So
COVID
too.
No.
It took a little
longer. And so Jenny came in started as my showing agent, now as a buyer's agent. And in June of this year, I took over Monica Reynolds' position as the vice president of MAPS Coaching, which is the coaching arm of Keller Williams International. And so, Jenny, you've worked with me since November of 2020.
Just over 2 years,
Yeah.
2.5 years. Yeah.
Her first 90 days with Shanna's guidance, and I don't know that I did much. I gave leads. That's what I did. She, in her first 90 days, had 15 pended and closed. Inside of her first 90 days, licensed in November, 15 pended and closed by the end of February that year, which is pretty amazing. Hit her financial goal by end of May.
I think it was April or May.
Yeah. So I can let her tell more about her, but I just love this one. She was a good hire.
Thank you. Well, I'll go really fast. So I'm born and raised in Springfield, worked for 12 years at Mercy Hospital as their business operations manager. All the while my husband and I own CrossFit Springfield, which is now Proximal Strength. So we've been in the community for a really long time, just being born here, knowing a lot of people. I had worked for a year at 417 magazine and just wanted to get out of the management role. Had actually looked into that in 2016. It just wasn't going to work with our family back then, just the way that back then how you had to just jump into things, and financially we just weren't ready. I just wasn't ready to take the leap, but and I probably hadn't talked to the right people. So yeah, it was really like a godsend just being able to meet Jen that day, because I was really struggling where I was in life, just with my career and everything, and wanting to really jump into something that I could take ownership with and also work with an awesome team. So started in November. I've got to learn from the best. So she is awesome to work with, and I'm super excited.
You closed 60 last year?
48 my first year, and then 60 last year. So hopefully we can stay on that and just continue to build that. I do have a showing agent now as well, Candace, so she's helping me with that. And so we were just trying to get this thing, keep it going. So, yeah.
The fun thing is, guys, and I'll tell you, is there were a lot of years that I did sales that I looked at it as transactions. And at the end of every transaction is a family. And the best people that I have hired have typically come from someone that I've helped with a house. Shanna, I helped buy a house. That's how I met Shanna, which is how you guys all have her in your life right now. Is I helped her buy a house, I recruited her in, and she stayed, and now she's impacting lives. And so I think that's the thing, is Jenny and I are going to be really transparent today. We're going to talk about good stuff. We're going to talk about mistakes we've made. And I think the number one thing to take away from anything is, how do I impact someone? How do I help another family? Because what I will tell you is, when I've done it well, I've ended up with great people in my life. And when I've not done it well, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow later, when you're like, gosh, I should have done that different. So
don't call them again.
Yeah. Let's take them off our,
take them off.
Just
we
so
don't want
do not
those.
call us. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. Guys, buckle up. You're in for a treat today. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute when they ask you to participate, and I will be running the chat. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. So welcome to Ignite. So we are in session 14, Win the Buyer. So you guys have been through 13 sessions already. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move into what our last 7 are. I know that you guys have some accountability exercises. I also know we're on Zoom today, so it's a little bit different than if we were in person. So what Jenny and I are going to do, with your permission, is we're going to lean in on the content so that we've got loads of time for content, maybe some role plays, some conversations, and then we'll get you on down the road. It would be a little bit different if we were in person. One of the things that Jenny and I talked about this morning is, if there's a time that you'd like for us to be in person at the Market Center and run like a buyer agent mastermind, or kind of just as a follow-up to this, since we didn't get to meet in person, we're more than happy to do that. And Shanna can buy us drinks. So just kidding. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and jump in. Right here is just the kind of where we're at on your things that you're supposed to be doing. And so here's an outline of what we're going to do today. So I know that most people like to know what the roadmap is. So we're going to talk about buyers. We're going to talk about getting the appointment, preparing for the buyer consultation. My suggestion to you is to think of that as more of a strategy session than a consult. Conducting a strategy session, getting your agency agreement signed. We're going to have time for a recap, ahas, and then whatever it is that you all do to be successful. Yes, Shanna.
Hey, Jen, it's a black screen. It just says loading.
Oh, we can see it.
Did anybody else see loading, or is it just me?
Oh.
Yeah, I just see loading. There it changed.
Oh.
Click to exit full screen.
Hang on. It's because Shanna asked me earlier if I needed help with sharing screen, and I said no.
She's like, I got it. I know what I'm doing. I'm the VP of Maps.
I'm a big deal. I don't know.
Open
Should
with
we have to
Google
open
Slides.
with Google Slides?
And
Resume
then
share.
slideshow.
How about now? No, we can see it though.
Your screen sharing is paused. Is it?
Resume share. No, no.
No?
Stop share. Okay, let's try this. Oh, Danielle said, is it Danielle or Danielle? Is it my friend?
It's Danielle.
Oh, different. You can be my friend too, Danielle.
I got you. Drinks are on me. Come back.
Thanks. We'll come back.
Yay, especially for drinks.
See, this is really stressing Jenny out, but it's not stressing me out at all because this stuff happens to me on the daily. Let me get into my email where Shanna also sent this to me because she knew I wouldn't know what to do. Okay.
If I need to screen share it, I can. You just let me know.
Well, we're going to try it one more time. And then if not,
When we first jumped on, it worked. And then it just,
let's see. We're working on it. Jenny, can you tell jokes or do something while we work on
I don't
this?
think if I have any good jokes these days. Well, I was kept up by 4 teenagers last night until 3:30 in the morning when they were making popcorn and yelling in the kitchen when my husband had to be up by 4. That
Oh.
was fun. So
ooh,
Let's try.
freshmen boys are fun.
Can you see this?
yes, we can see
Yes.
that.
How about now? Still?
Loading. I think it's your slideshow view, maybe.
Keep it maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, there seems to be an issue there. So yeah, I
Okay.
think if you just do it that way, it'll work just golden.
okay, Shanna Banana. Gator was about to come out. She was getting really frustrated that I was not prepared, but I was prepared.
You were
No, you're prepared.
Yeah,
It's all good.
friends. Everything on Friday.
I keep Gator in this pocket. It's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
Here
All
we go.
right. So Gary Keller says the right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. So right here, this is the hardest part. And honestly, like I struggle with this because I just want people just to genuinely just want to hang out with me. But and I just forget to ask. Like I have a hard time saying, do you want to meet? And that's the silliest thing. But that was something I really struggled for a while, was in just conversations, normal everyday conversations. I didn't want to impede or push my position on them. And the more I learned, they actually really want to hear from us. They want to hear what we know about the market and how we can help them. So that's one of the biggest hurdles. Just ask to meet with them.
I think that's it. It's understanding your value and
Mhm.
understanding that people have questions, right? They want to be in connection. They want to be in rapport with people. They want to have a relationship. And so one of the things that I've been saying a lot lately, to the point of exhaustion, probably with my team, is imperfect action beats perfect procrastination every time. Just ask for it. Guess what? If they say no, totally cool. If you don't ask, I can promise they won't say yes. And so there are really easy ways to ask for it. And it is just, Jenny, I would like to be the agent that gets to help you find the best house at the best price. I think that we would be a good fit. Do you have a chance this week to connect, right? It doesn't have to be, would you like to meet today at 2 or Thursday at 5 or whatever that thing is. Put your personality into it. And I think the longer you do it, the more comfortable you are.
Mhm.
Okay, so Jenny and I are going to spend some time kind of talking about A buyers and this is basically a lead funnel. So one of the things that I look at is Gary Keller often talks about that if you have a funnel of leads, that typically speaking, a buyer is going to live in your funnel for somewhere around 18 months. Okay. So what this shows me is this is the capture system. How do we get the leads to come in? How do we convert them? How do we get them into our database? Right? Because when you run a Facebook ad through Facebook campaign through Command, when somebody clicks on it, I don't necessarily count that as a lead. I would qualify that more as a inquiry, right?
Mhm.
And so it's understanding the definition between an inquiry, a lead, an appointment, and then a client. And so when we look at an A buyer, what an A buyer to me is it's somebody that is prepared to do something in the next 30 days, right? They're prepared to transact. They're prepared to buy a home. And so what we want to look at on our A buyers is to say, how do we know? Like Jenny, give me some examples of how you know if somebody's an A buyer.
Mhm. So I look at the conversations we've had, that I'm getting two-way conversations. They are willing to talk with a lender. They've already talked with a lender. We have an idea of what their price range is. what their payment, if they're comfortable with the payment and they're excited and ready to get their search.
Mhm.
So, and I know what their time frame is. So if I know you have been pre-approved, we are comfortable with what the payment is, there are options out there for you. Sometimes that search criteria is not matching what their financing is for. So I sometimes don't even pop that into the A buyer, even if they are pre-approved, because it doesn't make sense. I can't find them anything with what they're looking for. So I still have some work to do on my end to either change their expectations, change their criteria, to either raise their price range, lower their expectations on the house. So there's still some conversations that we need to have.
Mhm.
But when I finally have that locked in and we're like, okay, we are going to start the search now. Let's get it started. I'm going to send you some properties. We are going to get on the books to go see some houses, and they're ready to do it within the next 2 weeks. That's where I really I'm going to spend some extra time on you guys right now.
So there were a lot of things in that, guys. Like, there's a lot to unpack. I'm
Mhm.
really impressed with that answer.
Thanks.
Great
I learned
job.
that from you.
I don't know. You said it better than I did. So one of the things that Jenny said in there is she's going to spend some extra time. If the inventory doesn't match the criteria or the budget that they have, what Jenny said is, I'm going to go see what I can find. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to see what I can research. What Jenny didn't say was that she's going to go show them a bunch of houses. What she said was, I'm going to do this back end research. I'm going to reset expectations. I'm going to lean in on the conversation. Guys, conversion is the hardest skill set. And one of the ways that we improve our conversion is to improve our conversation. So Jenny took full ownership on the A buyer. She took full ownership. If there's something that was preventing them from buying in the next, she said 2 weeks, what's preventing them from buying, and how can she as the agent solve it? I find a lot of times, buyer agents or agents that work with buyers will say buyers are liars. And it's single-handedly the most frustrating thing I hear. The reason being, buyers aren't liars. We maybe didn't ask the right question as the agent, or maybe we caught them at the top of the funnel. Maybe they're not an A buyer. If it looks like an A buyer and shows up like an A buyer and they're saying some of the right things, we may want to jump and run. But what Jenny was saying is, if something doesn't match, I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to spend the time on it. One of my favorite questions to ask a buyer, if they said, if Jenny was my buyer and she said, gosh, Jen, I'm ready to buy. I need to be under contract by something by Valentine's Day. You use 2 weeks. And I would say to her, okay, Jenny, in the event that you don't find a house and we're not under contract by February 14th, what's your plan B? The reason I asked the plan B, because if Jenny says, Jen, I don't have one, I have to be in a house, I have to be under contract, I have to do this. Guess what? I'm going to say, let's get in my car. Let's get in my car and let's go show houses. She's an A buyer. She's pre-approved. She's ready to go. She has no backup plan. If Jenny says to me, you know what, Jen, Jeremy and I are totally cool living at the gym. There's a shower there. There's a bathroom. We've got cots. We can live there. We've done it before for 90 days. We could probably do it for 6 months. It's an example. It's role play.
It's not real.
It's real play. No, just kidding. But if she said all of those things to me, or more likely she said, I'm going to live with my mom and dad.
Yeah.
They have extra bedrooms. We can do all these things. And she was like, I'm actually going to stay in this bedroom at their house. And, my dog can be there too. And X, Y, and Z. Jenny's plan B might be Jenny's plan A.
Mhm.
And so if I never ask the question, Jenny, if we don't find a house by the time frame that you've given me, what's your plan B? How do I know that she's really going to buy right now? How do I know that she's right? We talk about ready, willing, able. How do I know that Jenny's willing to do what it takes to purchase a house now? So I know we've spent a lot of time on this slide, yet I do want you guys to understand the definition of an A buyer.
Mhm.
There's nothing holding them in the way. There's not a credit score that needs to be repaired. There's not a house that needs to sell. There's not a lease that needs to be finished,
Mhm.
right? We do have A buyers with issues, right? An A buyer with an issue might be somebody that has to sell a house first. And so, but we want to understand it's hard to be a buyer's agent if you're a Pop-Tart. right? If you pop and run every time somebody asks you to, it's exhausting. You
Mhm.
never have time. You're not home. You're not all
Mhm.
these things. And so what we want you guys to get in the habit of is asking great questions to identify who should have your time now and who should be in great follow-up.
Mhm.
Just because they don't want to buy right now doesn't mean we don't want to help them.
Right.
Just means we're not showing them right now. Okay.
Okay, so up next, we're going to talk about the 7-step buyer service cycle. So this is just kind of how we start with the appointment. We've already gone through some of these through previous sessions, but we do the leads to appointments. We prepare for the buyer consultation. We conduct the buyer consultation, then we looked into finding them the home. Then we work on offer and negotiating the contract to close, and the post-close systems. So you've gone through a couple of those, and we're going to start working through preparing for the buyer's consultation.
Okay. So then we're going to jump into, does anybody have any, and I can't see the chat now that I have to run this slideshow like this. So you guys are going to have to not be shy and ask me questions that are in the chat, or any ahas, anything that we learned so far.
I definitely like what you just said regarding the pace. You know, that kind of, I won't say necessarily takes pressure off, but helps me prioritize what I'm doing.
So I love that. One of the things and it's Stefan, not Stephen?
Correct.
Stefan. Okay.
Stefan.
So Stefan, one of the things, like one of the conversations that we use a lot is, you know, if you were a buyer and we were working together, and let's go back through that analogy and pretend that, do you mind to role play with me?
Sure.
You can be the client. I'll be the agent.
Okay. All
But,
righty.
but stick to that you have to be in a house by February 14th. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Alright.
Stefan, what happens, you know, in the event that we don't find a home for you by Valentine's Day that you're under contract on? What's your plan B?
I suppose if push came to absolute shove, I could stay with some relatives, possibly.
Okay, have you already connected with those relatives, or is that something that you don't want to have to do?
I would say I would prefer not to have to do that.
Okay, so Stefan, I just want to make sure that my motivation matches your motivation. And so what I mean by that is sometimes as an agent, I can over communicate. I can overwhelm people a little bit with my communication style. So if we need to be under contract on something by February 14th, I just want to make sure you're comfortable with kind of the, you know, the thought process. Are you going to be okay if anytime a home hits the market, that I call you, I text you, I email you, I send a honing pigeon your way? Are you going to be okay with that?
I may even respond to smoke signals.
I love that. That's the first time that anyone's ever
Good
said
one.
that. That's a good one. So Stefan, the reason I asked that is because if you were, and we can break the role play, but
Mhm.
the reason I ask it that way is because if you said to me, gosh, Jen, that would really overwhelm me. Like, I kind of just want to hear from you on Fridays before we go look on Saturday.
Mhm.
It's another indicator that maybe you're not going to buy right now. And I just want to dig into it. Doesn't mean I don't want to help you. Doesn't mean I'm not going to follow up with you. I just want to make sure that your expectations of communication and mine line up.
Very good. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Shannon, if there's something in the chat, you're going to have to shout it out.
I will say I've really loved your line of imperfect action beats perfect procrastination, because that has been the bane of my existence lately. I have been perfect at procrastination. So thanks for just calling it out there.
Oh, you're welcome. And you're the one buying drinks. You're like get a gold star today.
But I love that line. Thank you very much for that. Because yeah, I need to tell myself that whenever I'm procrastinating.
We all do. I think it's the fear of being wrong. Everybody wants to look good and be right. And I think the fear of being wrong can kind of sometimes paralyze us into not doing anything.
Yeah.
Just try. I bet you people have told me no more than they've told you no.
Mhm. I suffer from call reluctance a lot. Like it's like something that even people that I talk to all the time, and I'll sit and overthink it and know that I need to pick up the phone for this buyer. And then it's like, I get on the phone, I'm like, what was I just wasted so much time like
Worrying about
overthinking
it.
that. So yeah, it's, I like that too.
I think it always, that's everybody. We all have the frog that we need to eat first, or whatever that saying is. Frog analogies.
Also,
Okay.
I am watching the chat. There's nothing in there yet, but I will make sure to jump in when there is.
Thanks, Shan. Okay, so we're gonna jump into getting the appointment and converting these buyers, right? Am I in the
Mhm.
right spot?
Yep.
Okay.
So the key is to converting these A buyers and getting them into the office. Making sure that we can get that consult with them. We
Mhm.
want to get them to where they are motivated and ready to work with you. Because right now we're working with just a bunch of leads that really have no loyalty to us. They haven't signed anything with us. We are doing everything we possibly can just to keep casting things out there to keep their interest. So these are things right here that we need to make sure we're staying on top of in order to get that appointment to where we have the opportunity to
Mhm.
win with them in person or on the phone.
Mhm.
So if they reach out to you, number one is you have to respond quickly. Again, they don't have any loyalty to you at this point. If they text you and they have not yet had their financing done and they are like, a lot of times I just get a random Zillow text, it's a house. No words or anything. I'm
They
like,
just screenshot the
yeah,
house.
just a screenshot of a house. And I'm like, great. And that's awesome. Like, but you got to respond quickly because obviously they found something they like. They have an interest. They are searching. They see a home. This is a perfect opportunity to respond quickly and say, hey, it's so good to hear from you. What about this house are you liking? Okay, great. I'm so glad that you're seeing a house that you like. Now we can't really go see it right now because you don't have a pre-approval. Let me get you in touch with a lender. And so sometimes we have to do things prior to actually getting this buyer consultation to get them excited.
Mhm.
And it makes that buyer consult even better when you do meet in person because now they're finding homes they like. They have contacted a lender. If this one doesn't work, you're starting to reel them in.
Mhm.
And you want to do that so fast because if they don't hear from you and they like this house, they're going to call the listing agent or call whoever pops up on contact my agent on
Mhm.
Zillow. So just quick response, even if it's I'm in a meeting, let me get right back with you
Mhm.
in 2 hours or something
Mhm.
like that. Make sure you're getting all of their contact information as much as possible. So say they text you, you don't have either email address. A great thing I do is say, let me just get you set up on a quick search. Can I get your email address? So it's not like I'm just kind of checking boxes off. Like it's like, I try to make everything as personal as possible. So when you're doing that and you're talking with these people, create conversation with them through text message. I really want to get this working for you. What's your current home address? Are you wanting to be close to this? It's more like finding those things out. But once you get all that information, you have such a good toolbox to start sending them listing alerts and getting your name and your contact information in front of them all the time.
Mhm.
Determine their motivation to buy so you can speak to it. So ask questions, so many questions, as many questions as possible as you can while you're still trying to convert into this buyer consult. So why is that important to you? What is it about this house that you're liking? Do you think this amount, this list price on this house is going to be okay for you? So just getting those questions, the more questions you ask, they're actually going to start to trust you because you're going to give them good answers and give them a lot of good information. And then you're hopefully going to be able to set that appointment, set the time and the date. How quick can we, okay, great. You found this house you like, we need to meet so we can have this strategy session on how to get you this house. So set the appointment, set the time, set the date, and do it as quickly as possible.
It's so funny, Jenny, like when you say that about the questions, right? Ask so many questions. I heard one time somebody said, whoever asks the most questions wins the conversation, right? Because people want to talk and very few people ask great questions. So most people spend their time like kind of like, I'm asking a question to get to say my answer or whatever it looks like. And I will say the one thing that Jenny is very good at is connecting with people because it's genuine and it's authentic and she loves people and it shows. So people like to work with her because they feel comfortable. You guys just need to figure out what works for you. Questions always work. So 7, close to appointment tactics. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to show the benefit. So we want to show the benefit of working with a buyer's agent. So if somebody calls in and they want to see a house and potentially you run a Facebook campaign through Command and it's maybe not even your listing. Maybe you ask somebody at the market center, say, hey, can I run a campaign on this? And they call and they say, gosh, I really just want to work with the listing agent. Oh, well, do we know how to show the benefit of why to work with a buyer's agent? Do we know what that sounds like? One of the benefits, though, is like if I were talking to a buyer, I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, one of the benefits of working with a buyer's agent is a buyer agent has your main interest at heart. we're not going to just show you one house at a time. The listing agent is there to represent the seller, and they're only going to show you that one house. What we can do is we can tailor a search to you based on your wants and your needs. And what we can do is we can make sure we find you the best house at the best price in the shortest amount of time. The reason you want to work with a buyer's agent is because we've got your back. A question I heard somebody ask the other day, they were doing a role play, was, would you, if somebody said, the objection was, I'd like to use a listing agent. And they said, oh, really? Would you use your ex-husband's divorce attorney or something? Like that was the objection handler. Well, no, you wouldn't use the same representation, right? And yet you want to look at it this way when you're a buyer's agent. There are
love
other
that.
ways to handle that objection if you would like to handle both sides of it. But this today, we're focusing on buyers. A take back close, so a take back close would sound something like, if I were talking to Jenny, do you want to meet today at 3 or tomorrow at 7? And she says, no, I think I'm just going to wait. Okay, Jenny, I get that. I've got another buyer that wanted to see that house this afternoon at 4. So you just, I'll connect with you tomorrow. The take back is I just took back the 3 o'clock and said I was showing it to somebody else at 4. Right? There's that FOMO, the fear of missing out. You can do a negative positive close, which would be very similar to that take back close, right? We're looking at the fear of what's happening and then showing them the positive way through it. Give them what they're looking for. So this, I don't, the give them what they're looking for part of it, when I look at that, that's not typically one I would use. Yet I do think it does work for some personalities. You've got to understand where you're at in your business. If you want to offer a showing in order to get in rapport with them, or a couple of showings to get in rapport with them, that's fine. Just understand that then is how you're the standards that you're creating for yourself. A trial close would be, hey, Jenny, would you want to meet to talk about what the market looks like now, right? She can say no, and then I can keep going with the conversation. The assumptive close would be, hey, Jenny, it sounds like we need to meet tomorrow at 3. I'm going to go ahead and pencil you in, and I'll go ahead and book that showing for that property right afterwards. I just want to meet with you first to see if we can find anything else, right? I'm just pre-booking it. And then there are tie downs. Tie downs are, wouldn't you agree? Doesn't that sound right? Those types of things would be tie downs. Oh, sorry. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so buyer objections to the appointment. So we want to make sure that we are not getting frustrated when they say no, or feeling like we're being rejected, or that once they say no the first time that they're going to continue to say no every time after that. So, again, just asking over and over and being comfortable with that first time rejection, but also just knowing that you need to keep pushing because they're obviously interested for a reason. So, just looking at this and some of the objections is to how to overcome some of those objections is to ask questions. Again, kind of like what we just talked about. No, I don't think I want to meet right now. My credit's pretty low. I don't think I can do it, but I need to get out of this lease. Okay, well, what's your credit? Do you have any idea of what that is? Making sure that you've talked with a lender so you have kind of an idea of what credit scores are okay. If they're close on that line of their credit score being able to be approved, just little questions like that, that's like, okay, well, you think your credit score is too low. You actually hear it and you're like, no, your credit's actually great. Let's get you in touch with a lender today. Would that be helpful? Or, just continuing to ask questions regarding their objection. Why is that important to you? Tell me more about that so you can continue to move that forward. Empathize with them. So I feel like one of the best ways to work with a buyer is empathy. It takes a special type of personality to be able to work with buyers over and over and over again, because there's a lot of skin in the game. They have a lot of emotions around it. And just being able to say, I totally understand where you're coming from. This is scary and it is a crazy market out there, but that's why we're here. So we're here to help you through this so it isn't as stressful as you doing it on your own and looking through your realtor and Zillow and trying to navigate through all of these homes that are for sale and calling the listing agent and trying to set up your own showing and not knowing where you are financially. Just this is feeling what they're feeling and letting them know that either you've been there or you've helped someone else and you totally understand and are there to help them through every step of the way.
Hmm.
And then identifying the real issue. So is looking at them, listening to them, like listen to the small things. Like when they make a comment about it's going to be hard because we're going through a divorce and, you know, my kids, I have 2 kids. Oh, you have 2 kids. That's awesome. You know, what are your kids' names? You know, just starting to get, what are their ages? Little things like that. And then, you know, just making sure they're feeling heard. So you can go back, make notes, come back to the reasons why they're needing to move. So allow them to talk, identify the real issue of why they're not wanting to move forward just at this moment, because there could be some things that you pick up on through that conversation just by listening, and then you're able to move that forward. Then offer a solution. You've listened to them, you've empathized with them, you've asked them questions. So you should, through those 3 things, be able to say, I really think we might be able to do something for you. Let's get you to a lender. We can do some credit repair. Maybe 6 months down the line, we'll be able to buy you a house. But just listening and identifying those items leading up to offering a solution. And then again, ask for the appointment. So you've gone through all of those 4 steps. And after you've had all those conversations, again, feel comfortable after they've already objected and they've already said no. After we've talked about this, do you think maybe we might have enough information to get you forward and maybe have a consult?
I love that. I mean, and one of the things is when you got into the identify the real issue, one of the questions you asked is, a statement was, can you tell me more about that? It's amazing how far down the line that gets you, especially if you're uncomfortable in the situation. Can you tell me more about that? It settles you, gives you the opportunity to be able to move forward. Okay, hang on.
I think there's like duplicates.
Oh, they're duplicate slides. Okay, now we're back to ahas. Those are 2 slides
wait.
that are the same.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the same.
Okay. Any ahas, questions, comments, concerns?
I'll jump in. Jenny, I loved when you were talking about the offering the solution, right? Because so many people, they just come with problems, not solutions. And they're coming to you because you've got to have the solution. So, you know, thinking it through and not coming to your client with, here's all the bad, here's all the problems. You know, you're kind of the gatekeeper of the piece.
Shanna, I think it's interesting, you know, one of the things that like you look at in a role play or even in like real life, when I'm in a strategy session, if somebody gives me that objection, asking the question, like, so let's say Jenny said, I don't want to buy right now because interest rates are high. Outside of interest rates, is there anything else preventing you from buying right now? What you want to do is get to the heart of it, right? You want to isolate. That's what we say of like isolating the objection. And if Jenny said, no, that's it. Okay, now I can say, is it interest rates, how it's going to affect your payment, or interest rates over the life of the loan? And then we go from there. But if Jenny just says interest rates, and I never ask the question outside of interest rates, is there anything else preventing you? What she might have said, if I said, hey, Jenny, outside of interest rates, is there anything else that's preventing you from buying right now? She may say, well, yeah, I don't really want to move until June when my kids are out of school. Okay, well, I may have solved the interest rate problem, but not the kids getting out of school problem. And so what we want to do is isolate whatever objections there are. And then I might say to her, okay, Jenny, out of those 2 things, which is the more important for you? Is it the timing of when your kids are out of school, or is it the interest rates? Because otherwise, guys, I've spent hours objection handling people that actually never were going to buy because I went down I ran down the wrong path. So one of the things that you do very well is you ask the question, she stays in relationship. And I just want you guys to hear that. She's not rushing through any of these conversations. They take what they take. Yeah.
Yes, preach. So good.
That's my
Ask
favorite.
more questions.
Yeah, a lot of people will try to rush our conversations with this. And I feel like when you're building the relationship, you really just need it to take the time it takes. So I do love pointing that out.
And there's a time and a place for the rush. You know, I think there are
Yeah.
some, we got to get through this quickly. I'm going to hold your hand. Let's go. I'll let you know how this works as we're going through this, but
That's my personality. Yeah. I don't want all of the flowers. I just really want you to tell me what the price is, where to sign.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think
Yeah.
you have to understand that. And that's what Jenny, you know, what you're referencing is base how you handle the objections on personality.
On the personality for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to head into preparing for the strategy session. This is you.
this is me. Okay, so we are going to prepare our checklist for the buyer consultation. So the first thing is when we've said, okay, great, you want to meet, you want to confirm the appointment date and the time. So confirm it where it's at, make sure you book wherever it's going to be, and try to have it in a public place if you can, just for safety reasons and make everybody feel comfortable.
Good
So,
job.
I mean, sometimes you have to go to their house or whatever, but but just make it somewhere that everybody is going to feel comfortable, the buyer especially. And then we always on our team, we not only the day that we confirm it, we call the morning of that appointment. So life happens to buyers, sellers, everything. So we do either a quick text or a phone call and just say, hey, I just want to confirm our appointment today at this time at this location. I'm super excited to work with you. Anything come up or whatever. And they'll sometimes they cancel and say, I totally forgot, I've got to reschedule it, and you reschedule it, or can't wait, I'll see you soon. It saves time on your end to not have to go to an appointment where somebody's not showing up. We have gotten to where sometimes if there's absolutely no communication from the time we set the team appointment to if you're just not hearing from them ever again,
You kind of know what's coming.
you kind of know what's happened. So, but it's always nice to give them that reminder, because sometimes they really do want to meet and they just forget. If you're anything like me,
Same with the doctor's appointment,
that's
though.
doctor's
I mean, you get
dentist
a
appointments.
sensitive subject. So I do think that though, like you get reminders from other
Mhm.
people. It's okay to shoot
Yeah.
a reminder.
Yeah. One thing to really strive for is to ensure all decision makers are there. So this is a specific example. One time I had a buyer's consult set up. The two brothers came in. They're wanting to buy a house together. Come to find out the mom was actually the decision maker. There are going to be 3 people on this loan, the mother and the two 21-year-old brothers. So I spent an entire buyer consult talking to these young boys that had no idea what they were doing. Then I ended up having to go talk to the mom over the phone, and I hadn't had that rapport with her. So I basically had to redo the entire buyer consult. So just having everybody there present, make sure everybody's on the same page, that they all have the same motivation, and they're, really knowing what the next steps are for the entire group. And it's not always going to be that complicated. That one was pretty complicated, but
How
you
would
want
you ask
everybody
that?
there.
Like if you were how would you ask that question if you were setting the appointment about
Mhm.
like all decision makers, or at the beginning of that consult? What would
Yeah.
you say?
I think just that.
Mhm.
Who's going to be on the loan with you? Who's going to be on this contract with you? Can they
Mhm.
all be there?
Yeah.
I don't think I do a very good job of asking that. So-
I think sometimes the question is, that's exactly what I would say. You can ask, is there anybody else that this decision is going to impact that you think might benefit from this conversation?
Mhm.
Because I know if somebody said that to me, no, it would just be me, right? I'm going to buy the house by myself. I'm going to have that conversation. Yet they might also want to ask that question ahead of the showings, because I know that I probably wouldn't buy a house that Dan didn't look in the crawl space. Shanna probably won't buy one that I don't get in her crawl space, right? We all have someone that we need in a crawl space. But you look at it and you're like, those are okay questions to ask.
Mhm.
And yet it's something that's really easy to pass over.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay,
also
go ahead,
ask them if they
I
have a best friend that's going to show up at their showings later and just take all of those criteria and wipe it out.
Yes.
And say no to everything.
Yes.
Maybe they need to be at the consult.
That's
too.
exactly right. Is your mom choosing
Is
this
your
house
mom
for you?
choosing this house for you? Okay, then complete your buyer guide. Make sure you have that ready. I typically use the exact same buyer guide for all of my appointments, but we try to email it out prior so they can look at it. But then based on the buyer and what their goal is, we'll choose which items of that buyer guide to go through. But just making sure that you have that ready, print it off, any other kind of documents. If you like to go through the contract during your consults, have the agency agreement, everything nicely packaged in a folder, or however you like to present everything. Just making sure that you have that ready to go and with you when you go to your appointment and not sitting on your desk. And then you prepare the meeting space. So just make sure that all parties know where you guys are meeting. If there's a Zoom link, if it's a phone call, make sure that they're all aware of where you guys are going to meet, and then review the lead sheet. So just making sure that you know what their information is, making sure you are prepped and ready based on conversations that you've already had. So you don't have to ask questions that you've already asked them prior.
So top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. So one of the things is a needs analysis, and we're going to get into this in the next section. So this is really preparing for that strategy session, and then we'll kind of walk through what it actually looks like to be in one. I want to know from that lead sheet what I'm kind of wandering into, right? I want to look at what do we know about that information. If you're an individual agent, you probably know a lot because you booked the appointment. On our side of things, because we work on a team, that may have been booked by somebody else. I want to know, right? Are they pre-qualified? Have they met with a lender? What neighborhood information might I show up with so that I can be better prepared? Talking to them about a home search, what it looks like to make an offer, negotiations, vendor coordination, pre-close, closing, post-close. I'm going through this fast because this is the prep for it. We're going to go into the detail in that next section when we're actually in the buyer consult or the strategy session. What I will tell you is when I used to go to a buyer consult, I would be so nervous. I would be so nervous because I didn't know what to expect. One of the ways that you can to lessen those nerves or have more confidence is to have knowledge. Market knowledge trumps time in business every time. And you can find a lot of market knowledge just by going to our team meetings, just by talking with Shanna, talking out with other agents in the market center. The more information you have headed into any type of an appointment, the better off you're going to feel.
Okay, so your buyer guide contents, there is a lot on this slide. So
I think go through what you do
Yeah.
and they can read through what this
Yeah.
is, because I think they're probably more interested in like
Mhm.
what yours looks like.
So what my buyer guide looks like, and this is just my personality, is I like to get to know the people first, and I want the people to know me. So they're interviewing me at our buyer's consultation. Like this is their chance to talk with me and see if they want to work with me moving forward. So in that, I have a biography. I have a short bio of just me and my family. I've got pictures of my family in there, what we do, how long we've been here, what we like to do around town. I don't think that's even on here.
Mm-mm.
So I do that. Then after that, I have a page of testimonials of clients that I worked with that have actually turned in a review, just so they can see what the experience was when they did work with me or in my team. Then I don't think this is fun. I don't think any three of these.
That's why I was like,
Team-
this,
yeah,
they can read
there's
this.
there's great stuff in here, but this is just mine personally. Then we go on to team photos. So we are the team model. So we have transaction coordinators. We have our ISAs, our lead generators. There's going to be a lot of people they're going to be talking with, but I like to point out, once we go under contract, this is Lindsay. This is who's going to be contacting you to get you from contract to close. You're going to, just letting them know, this is Candace. She's my showing agent. Isn't she cute? Just
She is
letting them know
cute.
she is really cute. Just letting them know that the faces that they're going to see, that they can go back, because it does end up having a few people calling them throughout the transaction, and then having a face to that name is very helpful. So then we do that, and we go into like more of a roadmap kind of thing, on what does this look like, from this meeting right here to going through to when we close. So that includes what is your home? What do you want? What's your non-negotiables? What's your search process? What are the things we're wanting? I'm trying to see what else we have in here.
Financial
Worksheet.
I have my glasses on.
Yeah. A lot of these I
Too small.
actually don't include in my buyer's guide, because it's a lot of information that I feel like, as long as I'm getting them the information they need, that they can take and then go speak with a lender. I don't want to overwhelm them with too much information in this buyer's guide.
I think that's valid. I think when you guys look at this, you have to build it for what suits your personality. And if you need, like, I wouldn't put a credit check request in there. I wouldn't include that. That's just me. However, you should do that if Shanna tells you to do that. So,
I didn't say to do that.
no, but I'm like, just on the off chance, I don't want to discount anything you're saying. I think when you look at this, you have to know what's going to give you confidence. Do you need to have a financial worksheet in there? I would, on a seller's appointment, if I were meeting with sellers, I would want to have a net sheet that I could work through money with them. Yet you just have to know kind of what fits.
Yeah.
The one that I will say though, most people that love to work with buyers, it's that personality, the connection piece. And
Mhm.
so the ability to put testimonials and those things in
Mhm.
there is great.
And if I can jump in here, I'm so glad you guys went off script on this because these slide decks are presented at a national level, right? So different states have different kinds of ways they do things. And you guys are our hometown heroes right here. So take those things that are on there and pick and choose what works for you. And their guide, I love how it's concise and to the point and it's not overwhelming. And each page is useful and needed. So think about that as you're building yours. Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah. I think that it's just everything in real estate is you have to do what's authentically you. You're never going to be Jenny. You're never going to be me. You're never going to be Shanna. And thank heavens, the world wouldn't be that great if we were all the same. I mean, it would be pretty great if we were the three of us. However, side note, but I think you just have to be you. I think a lot of times people get into trouble because they try to be somebody that they're not, or they think they need to show up a certain way. There were a lot of years, guys, that I did a strategy session with a notebook and a line drawn down the middle of it. And it was, here are the wants on one side and the needs on the other. And I boiled it down from there. You have to determine what works for you and what system you'll follow. Whatever it is you choose to do, just do it consistently. So there is in Command a buyer guide, and you can customize it towards whatever you want, right? Like you can put anything in there. It's a template, you can move things around. One of the things about that is it does give you the ability to make it yours. And if you're utilizing Command at a high level, it should be super user friendly. Okay. Table of
Each
contents.
section of the- yeah.
I don't know now where we're going.
Okay, so we are gonna, these are just the sections of the buyer guide.
Oh, I'm not,
so
we're not going
if you
through all
want to go
these.
through, yeah.
Yeah, just I would scroll right through
Go
those.
scroll.
Yeah, I do highly recommend you guys get on Command and check these out and build your own from there. Or use the Designs app or whatever. There's really great content that you can build from.
Yes. And also, I mean, I know that earlier we were talking about leads and capturing and all those things that like utilize Command, right? I mean, what is it? The 201 Plus Club. I saw there was an announcement of all the great agents that have more than 200 contacts in Command. What we know is that equates to an average yearly income of $114,000 or $16,000. So get in there, play around. Okay, so buyer guide home wish list. These are some questions that are just a foundation. So guys, these are just a starting point. I wouldn't ask this in order necessarily. I would let the conversation flow, yet you need to understand kind of just the baseline of some things that you want to go through. One of the questions that I like to talk to people about are really those non-negotiables. And something I'll say in a strategy session is, if Shanna were my buyer, I would say, you know, Shan, what I find is that most people find a 90 to 95% home. And what I'm unwilling to compromise on that 5 to 10% are the things that you say we can't compromise. So when we determine what those things are, if you send me that screenshot of a house from Zillow or Realtor.com or something else, and it, one of those non-negotiables, right? You said to me you had to have 3 bedrooms and it only has 2 bedrooms. Then I'm going to say to you, hey, Shan, this one only has 2 bedrooms. I don't want there to be buyer's remorse, right? And I'm just talking to you guys. I will tell you, every time I've had a buyer regret a decision, it's because they went against their non-negotiables. We've got to dig in with these questions. You know, what about three bedrooms is important, right? And we're going to get into that in the consult, so I don't want to do it too much here. I just want you to see, though, this is a guideline of questions, and you have to be really comfortable asking the next question. What about that is important to you? What about that is important to your family? How does it impact your family? Okay, neighborhood insights. I'm still
Can I
clicking.
add one more thing? I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but
Keep going.
also know your market, right? Like know what their money can buy. So if they're $100,000 buyer, don't go into having a basement or having a 3rd-car garage or bringing down this rabbit hole of unrealistic wants, right? So you've got to know what's in your market, and you got to be the market expert and know kind of where their hard stops are.
It's interesting, Shannon, that you say that because sometimes I think we set ourselves up and then we're negotiating with the buyer, right? And all of a sudden they're like, well, who do you work for? I thought you're working with for me. And so it is setting those right expectations up front and asking the right questions. Cool. Any ahas before we jump into strategy sessions? Is that
Obviously asking the right questions.
Are you asking the right questions?
That's obvious. I'm just said, obviously asking the right questions is the
Oh,
big one.
yes.
Is the big one. Have I missed something, or maybe I'm premature in asking this, jumping into it? When do you ask for a buyer? When do you get the buyer's agency signed?
We're going to do that in the strategy session.
Is that part of the strategy session?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, Jen.
No apologies. I like the interaction. You're going to find that I would
Your
much
hair
rather-
looks wonderful, by the way. I'm not being, I'm sorry.
This is great for my ego.
Shanna told me
Can
to
I
ask.
come back tomorrow?
Such pretty hair.
You guys are friendlier than the people I usually meet with during the day.
I had
Um,
highlights. I had highlights done too. I don't know if you can see it.
I can. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
We won't
Okay.
tell. Okay. Shanna's
Sorry.
laughing.
Sorry.
Okay. Now we're actually going, are we still preparing for the consult? No. Okay. This is like an affirmation, right? Anybody on here do affirmations? Like, yes, Shanna does. What is your affirmation, Shanna? Can you share or no?
Yeah, no, it kind of changes day to day, but they want to hear what I have to say.
Oh. I love that.
Oh, okay. You got really silent. I was like, maybe that's not a
No.
good one.
No, it's really good. I think
Yeah.
it can be anything. I think I can make an impact today. This one is, I am knowledgeable and, oh, this is you. Is this me? I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they buy a home. I think that's it, right? You choose every day, you have a choice and you choose then how you show up.
Mhm.
Okay, where are we at? Have I skipped too many things?
No, you're good. That's it.
Okay, welcome the buyer.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay, we didn't even practice that. That was just off the cuff.
So here we are going to just kind of role playing the conversation with the buyer. So, with your permission, I'm going to talk with you, might ask you some hard questions.
Mhm.
There's going to be some financial questions. Are you comfortable with me asking about your finances? Some of those just kind of getting out of the way, that initial setting up how the conversation is going to go at the beginning of that consult.
I love to do the roadmap like you were talking about.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll go into it and just say, hey, Jenny, we're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour together. And we're going to talk about what it is that you want in a house, what you need in a house. We're going to talk about what the market looks like, how we negotiate a contract. We're going to sign some paperwork, and then we're going to establish what our next steps are,
Mhm.
right? You can do her roadmap that she has in the buyer guide. You can do as hey, here's what's coming in
Yeah.
the next 45 minutes.
And just take some time to get to know them. I mean, ask them just questions about themselves. Where do you live? What's your family like?
Mhm.
Just really starting to learn about just the buyer, not even the buyer, talk about the person, the people, who they
Mhm.
are and what their interests are.
Mhm. Does anyone want to role play the welcome?
Christina does.
Christina does. Christina, are you the agent or are you the buyer?
I'll be the buyer.
I'm always the agent when I ask that question. Hey, Christina, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Are you excited to buy a house?
I am very excited and nervous about buying a house.
Oh, what are you nervous about?
Just the whole process, worried about not being able to find what I want. That kind of thing.
I get that. That's actually why you're here. So today we're going to talk about, we're going to spend some time together. We're going to spend about 45 minutes to an hour, and we're going to talk about what it is that you want to find, right? What you're looking for, a piece of that. And then I'm going to walk you down what that roadmap looks like to get from this meeting all the way to closing. And I'm going to make sure that you constantly know what your next step is. Is that something that would make you feel a little bit better?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Is there anybody else that should be here with us that is gonna help you make a choice on your house?
My husband, but he's off working right now.
Okay, cool. So if you were to tell me out of if there's a house that you love and a house that he loves, who will give first? It's like the arm wrestling match.
He'll give first.
Okay, so I really got the right person here. We just
Yes.
make him feel like he's part of the choice.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So Christina, when we go and look at houses, will your husband be able to be there with us?
For the most of the time.
Okay, so I think that would be my only question. My only ask would be, let's run through everything today. I'm going to send you home with some paperwork so that he knows what that roadmap looks like. Yet let's try and book these when we start looking at houses, let's try and book them around his schedule so that he feels like part of the process.
Okay,
Cool.
we can do that.
Awesome. Let's jump in. So, I mean, that would be my welcome. I don't know. You have any feedback?
Yeah. And then, I think that's great.
You want to slap me around or you're good?
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
cool. Okay. Thank you for participating, Christina.
No problem.
So this is where we're going to be doing their buyer needs analysis. And this is a big part of at least my buyer consultation is finding out what their wish list is, kind of what we just talked about previously, their non-negotiables. This is where we break it down to how many bedrooms do you need and why is that important? How many bathrooms do you need? Is there a certain style that we're looking for? If I send you something that needs to be updated, are you willing to do cosmetic updates to the house? Do you want to be in a neighborhood? Do you care if there's an HOA? Do you want to put horses in your backyard? I'm on your 0.25 acres.
I don't.
I had one of those this week. Do you need a fence? A location? Where are we looking? This part is actually where I will actually pull up the MLS. If I don't already have a search for them, I build it with them while I'm speaking to them. So this is where I will actually pull it out, start drawing on the MLS and they get to see what we do on the back end, which is kind of cool. And I save it as their name. And so they can see that this is my search. So we're drawing and we've even made changes and they're like, well, you can actually include this part. You go a little bit farther west. I'm okay with going a little farther. This also really sets a really great expectation for them if nothing is coming up in their search criteria. So if they have said, say we haven't talked with a lender yet, and they're saying, I want to spend $1,000 a month. I even get out the Zillow calculator. I love the Zillow calculator. I don't like Zillow for much, but I like their calculator. So I'll do a quick backwards calculation for them to show them how much they might be able to spend with staying within $1,000 a month. So then I'm like, okay, now this is pending us talking to a lender to get your final approval, but here's the homes that are in the area that you're wanting to look at. So they can see either there's 30 homes or there's 0 homes. So this is where it sometimes is a hard conversation because we do have to get to where we're not finding anything that's in your search criteria at this price range. So what are some things that maybe we could give up on your non-negotiables or on your search? Or is there a possibility that we could increase what you're going to want to be spending? Is there some wiggle room? What's important about the 1,000 a month? So there's going to be some values added to when you're trying to figure out just what they want, and also set the expectation that it might not be exactly what they want. And those are hard conversations. That's hard when somebody takes the time to come into a buyer's consult and you don't want to crush their dreams, but you also want to make sure that they have a good understanding when they walk out of there that either one, they're totally going to be able to find what they're looking for in that price range. This is easy. We're ready to go. Let's get your pre-approval. Or we're going to have some struggles on this. So we either need to find ways to up your income, or we need to lower some of the expectations on the house that you're looking for. And then when they can see we move around those criterias, we switch it around a little bit, they can start to see things pop up on that search. And I don't know if everybody does this, but that's what I do. And it kind of helps them oh, well, that made it better. So maybe I can give on this. Maybe I can give on a bedroom.
Yeah, I think it's important. What Jenny is demonstrating is that she's going to have this conversation right out of the gate. So one of the things we typically start with is a question of, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what do you know about the market? And and they're either going to give you the correct answer of what's happening in the market or they're not. And if they do, right, so we're going to do one of two things. We're going to either educate them to what's happening in the market or we're going to validate what they already know. What Jenny is doing is she's doing a soft approach to, I'm going to show you that potentially this is going to be challenging. Or the flip side of it, I'm going to show you that you're going to have a lot of choices. Either way, though, they're coming in and they're all of a sudden operating as a partner.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I find really interesting in the market is, you know, in the market that we came out of, that it was multiple offers on every property. Jenny's buyers weren't traditionally losing more than one before she got them under contract, because she was setting the right expectation in the strategy session. There's a saying that my coach always says, which is hard conversation, easy life, or easy conversation, hard life. So what Jenny's doing is having the hard conversation in the strategy session. She's setting them up with clear expectations, right? So if they have clear expectations, they know what to do. They know what it's going to require for them to get the house. In the current market, that's still some of our price points, guys. Even though things have adjusted or changed, or maybe there are longer days on market, that's only in certain price points. Some are still moving relatively fast. So what Jenny's doing is she's setting herself up for success in the field. Perfect offer starts in the strategy session. So what Jenny's doing is she's showing them what's available. How hard is it going to be to find a house? When we find a house, you better move fast, or whatever else that looks like in there. It's really important that you get that, though. There were years that I didn't understand this. And there were years that I showed too many houses because I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't do what she's doing, which is show them what's available. I didn't drill down on it enough to walk out of that strategy session with a full understanding of what their wants and their needs were, right? And so what she just said, guys, is so important. It's the reason that she was able to help 60 families last year. It was the reason that she helped 60 families all on the buy side last year, when the first 8 months of it, the majority of her buyers were competing. And so I just want you to hear the difference in the customer service when you start with a strategy session, because the more homes you show a buyer doesn't mean they're going to like you anymore. They actually start to doubt your ability to find them the right house. They don't want to be your friend. They may end up as your friend, which would be awesome, right? Or someone that you work with. But what you want to do is you want to understand you're the educator, you're the expert. And so you have to be really comfortable if it's not great news. That doesn't mean we can't help them. It just means that there's an adjustment that needs to be made. Sorry, I needed to unpack that because it was really smart what you said. Good job, Jenny. I don't know where we're at.
I think we need to go down one.
Okay.
These love letters are kind of a thing of the past. This was back
do that.
when we had lots of offers and people were writing letters about their families and why they wanted to buy the house. But these are a huge liability. So do not accept love letters from your buyers. Do not present love letters from your buyers. They're just cause problems.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's fair housing. I mean, if you,
Mhm.
especially if you put a picture or something in there
Uh-huh.
and you can show why somebody, yes, don't do it. Any ahas just yet? We're moving through this.
I think going off the love letter thing, I actually had to present a love letter when we bought our home in August.
Did you represent yourself, or you had another agent that was helping you?
No, we actually went through an agent there from the Adam Grady team.
So sometimes, I mean, people will use them and it's okay. I mean, I can't say it's okay. If that agent that you were working with knew the listing agent well, or knew the seller well and thought it would help, you have to take the advice of the agent. As an agent, I wouldn't recommend it.
Was the seller requesting it?
No,
Okay.
our agent just said it'll increase your chances of them accepting the offer.
Yeah, I would just, every team has different, ways that they operate. I just typically now, with the role that I have in MAPS, I see the other side of it. I see the side of it where there can be a lawsuit if an offer isn't picked and there were love letters involved, because they can see either race or gender
kids.
or kids or not kids or age or any other thing. And I would just, I'm not going to say we've never done it. There were periods of time when we did. There were periods of time where, quite honestly, I sent Adam charcuterie boards when we won offers. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that that we've never done it. I will just say, in the dynamic of the environment that we're living in right now, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
As an agent, I wouldn't put my neck on the line and do it. So one of the swap outs that we started doing there for a while is I could take a video, like a selfie video at a house, and say, hey, Adam, it's Jen. I'm at your listing at 123 Main Street. My buyers are super excited. We're getting ready to make an offer. We're headed back to the office to write that up. If there are any specific terms that your seller would like to see in an offer, let me know and I'll make sure that we get those included. Because what's happened then is I'm not including the family in it, yet I'm trying to build rapport with Adam. And so what we can do, especially as a new agent, if you don't know, I think Adam right now, if I sent him a video, would be like, that's weird.
Hi, Jen.
But if you were a new agent and you weren't, you didn't know the agent on the other side, it may be a way to help your offer stand out. There are also really easy ways that are totally in the ethical boundaries to make your offer stand out. Write a clean offer, make it professional. When you send it with bullet points. Ask the listing agent, call the listing agent and say, outside of price, what matters to your seller, right? There are additional steps you can take that can protect you more as an agent than a love letter might. So just my opinion. Any ahas? Are we back to ahas?
We were in the ahas.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Any more ahas?
An aha to the aha.
I'm sorry.
No, this is great stuff, and on those love letters, I mean, that was a thing. I remember being on the team and having written, because we had to try to stand out at that time, and things have changed. The world is in a different place today. And so do everything you can to protect yourself and build the rapport with the agent. And I know Jenny, I can remember specifically, you were sitting outside of a house, window down, and the agent came up and you guys started talking and you got chosen for writing a clean offer, but also because you took the time to build the rapport with the listing agent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was in the dark with no internet. We got that one done.
Safety first. That's
Right.
what we think. Safety
Super
first. In the
smart.
dark, no internet. Probably had never met the person before.
He was
Just
nice.
kidding. He was nice, she
That's
says.
fine.
Oh, okay. So now we're going to get into the question that we had earlier, which is getting the agency agreement signed. So one of the things that we want to look at on the agency agreement is this. We, number one, just like an appointment, just have to ask for it. If we were taking a listing, we could not put a listing live on the MLS without having signed paperwork. One of my suggestions for you guys is not to work with buyers over an extended period of time without an agency agreement signed. So the caveat, and I'll get into the caveat later. So the close for agreement. Does somebody want to role play this with me? I can still be the agent.
Andrea, how about you?
Oh, we're calling on people. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Okay. So I'm going to try and close you for the agency agreement, and I want you to just say, I need to think about it or whatever. You use whatever objection you want. So, Andrea, number one, thank you so much for coming in and meeting with us today. I'm excited to have the opportunity to be your agent. I do believe that I can find you the best house at the best price. And I think I can get you into something by the end of April.
That would be great.
Awesome. So there's kind of one more step. So, when we had talked at the beginning, I said there was going to be some paperwork to sign. We have what we consider a loyalty agreement. And that loyalty agreement just says that I am going to work for you as your buyer's agent, and that I will be the only agent that you're utilizing to find you a house. So I'm going to go through the document with you, and then we'll get that signed and we'll get showing set up for Saturday. How does that sound?
Well, I'm not sure I really want to sign anything yet. I'm just not sure that I'm ready to be in a contract.
Okay, I can understand that. May I ask, I mean, outside of signing the contract, is there anything that would prevent you from working with me as your buyer's agent?
No, I'm just not sure I'm ready to move forward with it.
Okay, so I oftentimes don't want to sign something that I either don't fully understand, or maybe something got glossed over. What questions do you still have for me?
Well, I just don't think I want to be locked in, but can you show me houses anyway?
So Andrea, I appreciate that. I understand not wanting to be locked in. I typically also don't want to be locked in, you know, if I'm not super comfortable with someone. Here's my concern though. And do you mind if I just speak frankly?
Sure.
So my concern is that if you're not sure that you want to be locked in and that perfect house shows up this afternoon and it has all of the things that you're after and it's in the price range that you want it to be in and it's the lifestyle type house that you're after, and you're not sure you want to be locked in with me yet, I've got some other buyers that I am working with. I guess let me ask you this. Would you expect for me to call you or would you expect for me to call them?
Well, I would want you to call me.
I want to call you, Andrea. I do believe that I'm the best agent for you. And I do believe that I can find you the best house. I think it's one of those things where, you know, I just want to be really honest. If at any time I'm not doing a great job and you feel like you get better representation somewhere else, I'm totally fine to cancel it. I know that this says there's a 30-day, you know, cancellation period. I'll cancel it the same day. The only thing I would ask is that you just give me feedback if at any point you're starting to feel that way. So what I'd like to do is just move forward, help you find that house. Let's get this signed today. That way we can go take a look at those houses this afternoon. And if at any time you're uncomfortable, you can just let me know. How does that sound?
That sounds okay. As long as I don't have to be locked in, that sounds just fine.
Okay, so you feel comfortable as long as you know that we're just with notice that you could get back out of it.
Yes.
Okay. So I've never actually had that many objections in an agency one. So Andrea did a very good job. I was like starting to sweat a little bit. I was like, well, she didn't say yes. Typically speaking, it's the fear of the unknown for somebody. And so you can use different analogies, right? You can do like a takeaway of what if somebody else wants to see the house. The other thing it's a lot like is, you know, dating, right? If you had built good rapport with someone, I may say to Andrea, okay, so Andrea, like, this is like us being engaged, but not married. So it's easier to break an engagement than it is to break a marriage up. And, you know, people typically kind of laugh and say those things. And I would say, really, for me, though, this is just like dating. The only thing that I'm going to ask is that I'm the only person that takes you out on the weekends, right? Like you can spin it however you want to spin it, but it is just asking for the question and understanding the value. Some of the things that we didn't go through, and you had kind of pointed this out to me earlier, is the outline that they give you for the strategy session doesn't cover all of what we do.
Mhm.
So if we would have just asked wants and needs, it is a little harder to close for the
Mhm.
agreement. So I think Jenny and I kind of, if we can go off script for a minute and talk about some of the other things that we do in a strategy session, you might feel like you're adding more value to get that agreement signed.
Mhm.
Shanna, is that okay? Okay.
Thumbs up.
So what are some of the other things in a strategy session? So like if we were to say, we're going to kind of talk about the market first, right? So if we were going to give you an outline for a strategy session, I would go build rapport. I would go outline of the market,
Mhm.
what, you know, educate or validate. Then we would do wants and needs.
Mhm.
Then we would go into timeline and motivation.
Mhm.
Then what do you do?
Then I start walking through the roadmap. So I go through every step of the way. So I'm physically walking them through an entire contract to close with them. So I'm taking the time to go through what it looks like when we find a house. What's it going to look like when we want to make an offer on a house? What is earnest money? What is the offer price? How do closings work? How long is a typical closing? So I'm literally going through everything that we possibly could go through in that strategy session, as long as they're willing to listen to it. Sometimes you get some that are just, I don't really want to hear it, but if they allow me to explain things to them, we're going through that entire contract. So when on the day that they do decide to write an offer on something, I'm not sitting there trying to explain all of this verbiage on just the contract. Once we explain the contract, great, we've got our contract accepted. The next thing we're going to do the next day is have our transaction coordinator contact you, and then we're going to start these few things. We're going to be notifying the title company. The title company is the one that's going to be doing all the work to make sure that you have a clean title that we get you to closing. We're going to do the work as far as notifying your lender. So we go through the appraisal process too. So I'm explaining to them, how long does the appraisal work or take? What's the situation with that if it doesn't appraise? There's a lot of value that I'm adding to them during that consult. Going through the inspection process, I go over the entire inspection period. So typically you have 10 to 12 days to do the inspection. Once we, going through all the things that they should and shouldn't ask for, setting those expectations up prior.
It's so, guys, like, listen to that though. Like, some of you are going to jump and show. I know it because I did it and I have zero judgment.
And I still do it sometimes.
I judge it around you. No, I'm kidding. But if you, but you're gonna do it. You're gonna fall out of the habit of this at times. The market's gonna be moving fast. Here's the thing though. What Jenny is talking about is the difference between running it as a business and being a Pop-Tart. When she sits down and explains to them, this is what a contract means. Guess what happens at 7 o'clock on a Friday night when they find the house they want to make an offer on and they're attached emotionally to it? She's not explaining earnest money. She's not explaining the minutia of what happens next. She's not explaining that they can't move into the house next weekend, that it's going to be 30 to 45 days. She's not explaining that we have to show verification of funds if it's a cash offer. What happens is if Jenny finds them the house, they want to make an offer and she has to slow down and explain all of this. What if they lose the house based on that extra 30 minutes that she has to take? It's happened. We've missed windows over it, right? So what she's doing is she's setting expectations and she's saying, this is what's coming. Guess what else? I'm guessing it's not the only time you explain it to them.
No, you keep doing it over and over.
I would do it in showings.
Mhm.
Hey guys, here's what happens next, right? This is the house. We want to make an offer. Just as a reminder, right? Here's what we're looking at. Here's what terms look like. Because in a market where something is moving fast, let's say you get into one of those houses right now where there are multiple offers. If in your strategy session you said, oh, market is softening, boy, it's sure, we're in a shift, it's sure slowing down. Shift is internal language between agents. Shift is an external language to clients. So if I say, oh man, market is softening, I don't know what's going to happen. And then Jenny and I go look at a house and I'm like, I need you to offer over full price. Jenny all of a sudden is going to be like, do you work for me or do you work for the
Right.
seller?
Mhm.
The conversation has to happen before emotion comes into play or it won't work. You'll have buyers that miss out on houses because they're not prepared to write the offer that it takes to write it or to win it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after going through all those things to wrap it up and to get to the buyer's agency agreement. So I've already shown you, a lot of everything that goes into this. So, I'm really trying to show them my commitment to them. I've taken an hour or more out of my day, came prepared, showed them everything that happens from starting the showings to when we get to the closing of this contract. So what this document is really going to help is you can see how hard I'm going to work for you. I want you to know that there's a lot of people that are on the fence that haven't signed this. So I'm going to spend my energy and my time, just like I spent my energy and my time for this meeting with you. I'm going to spend my energy and my time on the ones that have signed this. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to help you if you come up with something or that I'm going to push you to it literally does. The ones that have signed just get that little bit of extra special treatment on my time when I have the free time. So I'm going to be looking deeper into their searches. If I have something that's off market, it matches to both of your criteria, I will send it to a signed buyer first. So it's just those things that I'm willing to work hard for you. I'm just asking that you return that favor for me.
Oh, that's
So-
really good. I thought you didn't want to role play that.
Good.
That was good job. So talented, this one.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to go back and touch on is the inspection period
Mhm.
that we, when we're looking at the inspections and you're prepping people, one of the things that you said is what they can ask for and what they shouldn't ask for.
Mhm. Yes. So my biggest thing, especially still in this market, it was even more the past couple years. What I say to them is when we go through an inspection, the items that we're going to be requesting are safety items, structural items, anything that's going to cause you a large sum of money once you move in. Anything that we can't see behind what we're currently looking at when we look at the house. So cracks in the walls, if there's a structural issue that comes from that, yes, we can request something like that. But caulking, water stains, stuff like that, that we can see when we're walking through the house. And I actually do say this in my buyer consults, look closely, because those are the things that we're not going to request. Anything
There's-
cosmetic
yeah.
or things that we're seeing, we're not going to nitpick. We're going to ask for those big items.
There's a line item in the contract that says the price we're offering is based on what we can see.
Mhm.
So in the first 2 or 3 lines of the contract, it actually states that, right? We're looking for hidden defects, water in the crawl space, structural, electrical, roof, something major, as Jenny, plumbing, something major, as Jenny pointed out. But what happens is if we don't have those conversations and they get hit with a 100-page inspection report, they freak out and they're like, I don't want this house. This is the money pit or whatever else it is. And I think what we've got to understand is we've got to be prepared to handle that
Mhm.
as it comes in, because as important, we're going to get into contract to close probably here, right? I just jumped ahead, maybe.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
Closing to the agreement.
No, I think we've got something else coming up. We're sorry. We're just going to keep going. Take notes.
We're good.
It'll be fine. But I think what we've got to understand though is you're working really hard to generate leads. You're working really hard to set appointments. You're working really hard to get a buyer agency agreement signed. You're working really hard to show houses and get somebody to write an offer and get that offer negotiated. What we want to make sure of is any loophole that we can button up in that strategy session, which includes the inspection that happens later. Do it early, do it often. I'll point them out if I'm in a showing. I mean, there was a house that Shannon and I showed and we walked in, I was like, no, this isn't it. We can't buy this.
Mhm.
Right. Like, and I have time on task to be able to see Shanna's scenario, what her life looks like and what would work for her. Right. If I were showing an investor that same house, I would have had a different reaction to it. Yet that's the rapport you're building with someone to understand what's important to them or not.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Jenny. Stop
Good.
yelling
I
at
think it's
me.
this one right there.
Okay.
So then you get that signed agreement, you're going to be wrapping up your buyer's consult. So thanking them for their time, letting them know what the next steps are. The next steps are, we've got your search set up. You're going to be receiving search, your listings through your email. These are going to be automated every time something pops up on the MLS. If you guys have found something during your consult and they are pre-approved, go ahead and set up showings, get that scheduled. This says here you can offer your KW app so they can look at their search there. Sending any information that maybe during that consult that you needed to say, you know what, I'm not sure. Let me check on that for you and I'll get it right back with you. Or let me send you some lender contact information. So anything that came up during that we kind of had to put on the back burner, we're going to follow up immediately with that. And then after that consult, either following up with a text or a call and just saying, thank you so much for
Mhm.
meeting with me. I'm super excited about working with you. Let's get rocking and rolling.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, the set expectations, though, what happens next, that's every conversation you have with any client.
Mhm.
Hey, Jenny, thanks so much for meeting with me today. Here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to go back to my office. I'm going to finalize the search that we started today, and I'm going to pick our 2 best options. Are you able to go out and take a look tomorrow afternoon? I'm also forward pacing Jenny. If Jenny needs to buy by February 14th, I need Jenny back out with me tomorrow. I'm not waiting for Jenny to text me Thursday for me to show her Friday and all of a sudden I'm already booked. I'm going to control the pacing of it. We call it forward pacing, right?
Mhm.
So that's the other part of here's what to expect next. Jenny and I are in a showing and Jenny doesn't like the house. I'm going to say, hey, Jenny, I'm so sorry this one didn't work. I feel like I have a better understanding of what it is that you're looking for. Can we go back out tomorrow at 4? I'm going to do a fresh search and make some adjustments. You're doing every appointment. You're doing one of 2 things. You're setting the next appointment or you're signing a document. That's it. Set or signed. we're setting the next appointment or signing a document. So if I show Jenny a house, I'm showing to sell her a house. I'm not showing for her to shop. So we're going to look at a house, and at the end of it, in the event that she comes back to me and says, I want to make an offer. Great, that's signed, right? We're
Mhm.
signing something. If she doesn't, we're setting the next appointment. That's how you control your calendar as a buyer's agent. I know we're not in showings, but just as a FYI.
Mhm.
Okay, wrapping up that, any ahas or takeaways?
This is so good. I hope you guys are just furiously writing notes down.
Set or signed.
Hey.
That was
Okay,
good.
now we can see the chat.
Yay!
What's he showing over there?
Oh.
Notes.
Notes.
His notes. I'm seeing all these heads doing this and I'm like, yes, so good.
Either that or they're texting their friends, like, save me.
Who are these crazy?
Is this where I'm at? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. We're headed towards the
We're headed towards the
to the
finish line.
Yeah, just these three. Yes,
Sweet.
Mhm.
Good job,
we
Jenny.
did it.
What did we learn today? What are we implementing today?
One of the things that I wrote is quality conversations basically help to build that confidence. You can build so much off of that. I'm still kind of processing all of that, but just making sure that you're communicating and finding out their needs and just all that is just outstanding stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, I think just having that, building that authentic relationship, I think is huge.
Mhm.
Because there's so many agents out there. All the agents have the same tools, available to them. And if you treat it like a transaction, they're going to feel like a transaction. So just really working on just general
Mhm.
authentic communication, like it, and you can't teach that. you
No.
can't teach how you want to treat people. And that can be something that maybe people have to work on is
Mhm.
like, how do I get to like people and want to talk with them?
Mhm.
It's genuinely like just really just wanting to be there and be excited for them. They can feel your excitement.
Mhm.
And that's what I love about the buy side is it is just genuinely exciting to work with buyers. It's fulfilling on
It
both
is.
sides, I think.
Buy side, best side.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else?
I actually have something. I was thinking about this when we were talking about the signer reluctancy when Andrea role played with you. If somebody, and please correct this if this thinking is wrong, but if somebody is so reluctant to sign, to me, that's a red flag for what's to come during this transaction, right? Meaning that I'm going to have to slow down and talk more and explain more once I understand why they're reluctant, or they may be flighty. We may run into that same problem when it comes time to write a contract, right? And not wanting to feel locked in. To me, that was like sirens going off, like don't work with the buyer, but with caution.
Mhm. Agreed. There's so many things with buyers, I think, that I wish I knew then, kind of what I know now. And it is that I think when you've got a big enough pipeline, we talked about A buyers at the very beginning, right? If you've got enough people in your pipeline, the number one thing is, number one, I can start predicting my business. I know how much income I'll have. I can run it like a business. Number two, though, when I get that person that comes across that's a little bit flighty, I don't have to choose to work with them, right? I don't have to choose that because I have plenty. When you have plenty, you get to hold your standards. When you don't have enough, we start grasping a little bit and we're willing to do things that we wouldn't normally do, right? Or would go outside of boundaries. When you're behind on numbers or you feel like you need to make a sale, all of a sudden you're willing to sacrifice personal time, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to do this instead of going to a basketball game or a track meet or soccer or whatever it is. If you had plenty, you wouldn't.
Mhm.
You'd say no.
Jen, can I ask a question about that? So
Yeah.
back to what Shanna said, part of my issue is it seems like when it comes to buyers who are friends, that there's a little bit more reluctant to sign that agreement. And I don't know if they just think I'm going to do them favors, or do you find a difference between people who are friends and people who you don't know when it comes to signing that contract?
You know what the difference is, Andrea? Yes, I do. The difference is I treat them differently. I typically don't bring them in the office. I don't have the same consultation with them. I don't set the same boundaries. I don't set the search the same way. I don't ask the same questions because I make assumptions based on my relationship with them. So I can honestly say probably the worst transactions I've ever had are with people that I'm friends with because I didn't follow the system. I didn't do this. I would never not do this with somebody that I just met. But what happens is, I get, I don't know, a good friend of mine that wants to buy a house or I have a past client that I've sold a lot of houses to. And what happens is I cheat the system, and yes, 100% the experience is different, but it wasn't because they didn't want to sign it. It's because I didn't show up the same way, and they're seeing their friend Jen and not the Jen that shows and sells houses.
Mm.
Do you agree?
Yes, definitely.
Shanna, any input on that?
100% true. And I've been on the receiving end of that with people that you're like, oh, Shanna's going to go show you. And I'm like, oh, time to set standards and expectations here.
Not if they're my friend. Yeah, Andrea, we've done it. We've all done it. I think the challenge to you would be treat them the same that you would treat anybody else. If you're showing them the same value and you have a solid strategy session and you do all of the things that Jenny mentioned and they still don't want to sign, that's also cause for concern. But my bet is that we just sometimes show up differently with our friends. We take it for granted.
And I think because it is kind of awkward at first, say, I really want to give you the best service. So I'm going to treat you when you're with me, when we're talking about purchasing a home, I'm going to treat you like I do my clients. So I'm probably going to talk to you a little bit differently. I'm probably going to give you information that might sound a little consulty, or you know what I mean? Just call it out. I mean, it might be a little bit more awkward because we are best friends, but I don't want you to get a lesser experience. So I'm going to treat you like I do everybody else because I want you to have that top-notch experience. So yeah, we might kind of blur the lines of friend and business relationship for a little bit, but it's going to be a benefit to you.
I couldn't agree with that statement anymore, Jenny. I mean, it is so true. It's honesty is the best policy, right? So just own it and say, this is what's going on. I've noticed in my past when I treat friends like friends during the business relationship, it doesn't bode well for you and it ends up being messier. And your relationship's too important to me to do that.
Yeah,
that's
a really
good
question.
That's the line.
Yeah.
Your relationship is too important to me. It was a good question. Good job, Andrea.
Awesome. Anybody else? I mean, you've got Jen's ear right now. Jen and Jenny.
The two Jens, the flying J's.
Flying J's.
No,
well, they are a little bit shy. I think you blew their minds. I think they were all like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. No,
they're like, how is she leading maps?
I guarantee it's not that. I guarantee it's not that. You guys were just amazing today. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Guys, let's give them the round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Shan, we love you.
Love
Keep doing a
you.
great job.
Love you guys. I'll
All
talk to you
right.
later.
Bye.
Bye. All right, go get to lead Jenning. Go find those buyers.
Thanks a lot.
Your highlights look good, Rob.
I try.
Great session. Thank you.
Thanks, Dayton. All right, Stefan, you hang on here for me, okay? I want to chat with you.
Yep.
Whoa, he's in trouble. So what'd you think of that?
It was, it always takes me a little bit to process whenever there's that much information.